Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Well, today is February 23rd, 2013, and I haven't quite exactly changed my programming yet, but I'll get around to that. There's just so much happening. I spend a great part of my day doing information gathering, and that might sound like a waste of time, but you have to remember, I was in these intelligence circles for some time, and I understand the importance of information. It's not 100% spot on when you make a prediction or you try to use a matrix to come to a decision about what might happen, because there's so many fluctuating liquid things that are going on that you can't quite pin them all down. That's part of what we call the intelligence preparation of the battlefield, and everybody does it, just by different names. In the corporate world, it's called marketing surveys. The point is, you gather the information, you make the best call that you can, and you prepare accordingly. But you don't leave other things undone. Okay? So above all, as I always say, no matter what's going on, prepare, prepare, prepare. Again, people make fun of me for saying that, calling me schizoid or, paranoid or whatever. Look, we just had the snowstorm. We had the Sandy hurricane. We had Katrina, the Sandy hurricane. Then we had this thing back east with this big snowstorm that shut a lot of stuff down. And people couldn't get food, gas, water, the things that they need. So what am I saying? You don't need to have a big, total upset of the government to have a problem. You could have something very locally, LA, earthquakes. Tsunamis aren't that impossible there either. So what am I saying? You just need some basic supplies and a basic plan. There's nothing wrong with that. All right? Now, we'll get off of that for right now. And let me just say something else. A lot of people I shouldn't say a lot of people. I've been running into a little, on the same note, friction on my concern about things. And I'll just say it like this, okay? Like I said, I'm an intelligence gatherer, information gatherer. What I see here is a very dangerous situation. You've got to understand, I've been involved in third world countries. I've gone places. I've done things. No, I don't know it all. But I see trends. And those trends are that happen in those third world countries are happening here. And they're not accidents. These things are done on purpose. Now, I'm not going to go too far into that. I have some other things I want to say. But I will say this. Okay, a few people have thought that, I've been over the top. And again, predictions in gathering of source information, making decisions isn't always 100%, but the trends are there. And those things will happen eventually. Oh yeah, they will happen eventually. The exact timing I might be a little off on. But we're in a very, very dangerous situation right now. We have a government that is turning into a tyranny. I'm risking it even being on YouTube here, as so many others that are doing this, and some very, very well. One of the best ones I found is C Green 34, all lowercase letters CGREENE 34. His channel's great. He's very intelligent. He used to be a stockbroker. He understands financial markets. He made a very good living off of it, and basically he lives in Arizona right now and does a TV show on the internet talking about these things. No, he and I don't agree on every subject. You never ever do. But he understands the point of trends. All right? A lot of you might be familiar with Alex Jones, and for years and years, people used to say that he was a crackpot, a nutcase. Infowars.com has become probably the largest and most sophisticated alternative media program in the world. Now, I'll grant you something. Alex is a passionate guy, and sometimes he goes off on these rants where you think, oh my gosh, the guy's crazy. But let me tell you why he does that. Because he has a passion. He knows his material. He's seen these things up front, personally, in his face. And he's desperately trying to alter the course of our republic. Well, we don't have the republic anymore. Trying to get the republic back. He's trying to wake people up. And sometimes you got to, when somebody's in a nightmare, and they don't know they're in a nightmare and they're asleep, but they're throwing the covers and they're screaming and hollering. Okay, well, some psychologists, some dream therapists will say, well, don't wake the person up, let the dream finish out. But you want to get them up. You want to wake them up so that they're not in this terrible situation. A better example, you got a guy who's on the railroad tracks, kids, and this has happened with kids, so this can happen. There's a locomotive, a train coming down the track, and a person sees that. And at first he's saying, hey kids, you got to get off the track, there's a train coming. The kids don't pay any attention. Hey kids, you need to get off the tracks. What does he finally do? He starts screaming, yelling. A mother would do the same thing. And that's what's happening with so many of the people that are in the alternative media. Alex Jones being the most obvious. But taking it from there, I get the same way. Certain things have happened to me. I'm not going to talk about those here. But I know that there are certain people that are being watched. And these different organizations, and I've talked about them before. And I'll just mention NSA, FBI, CIA. CIA used to only work overseas. That's not the case anymore. They have all these idiotic things. They have CIA operatives here in this country. DHS. Spying on our liberties, not because we're doing anything wrong, but because we disagree with the fact that our republic has been taken away. All right. So what happens? You get your phones tapped. That just reminds me, not just your phones, your emails and other things. And sometimes I get emails or messages, and I know the difference most of the time between a real person and not. So, maybe I'm a little overcautious at times, but sometimes it's better to be that way. So, let's help each other out here. Let's understand that we're in a really difficult situation. All right. One of the things I sent out on emails a little while ago to some friends was a situation where the CIA director, former CIA director, General Petraeus, admitted in a hearing that the smart meters on your homes that they're putting in, all of the new technology, even washing machines, dryers, television sets, all of these different digital appliances can spy on you. Even those little new light bulbs with the curly cues, they have these little chips in them. All of those things can be managed by this supposed smart meter on the outside of your house. But it goes further than that. Petraeus said, we can spy on you in your house through your washer or your dryer or your television set if we want to. Now, of course, they got to focus in on you, right? You would think that. The NSA facility in Bluffdale, Utah, is going to allow the government to obtain and filter bits of information incredibly fast. So they can focus on things. Remember I said that the government defines terrorism. It's not necessarily an act. It's a definition. And more people are falling under these. I imagine now it's hundreds of definitions with what's going on. And I'm going to tell you about one here in a minute that involves veterans. So, and I've talked about others in the past. But this facility in Bluffdale is going to be able to gather every bit of information. And if you're talking in your house one day, and I'm going to tell you something here in a minute, it's going to blow your mind because it was on television, it was on the internet, it was on AOL. I'll tell you about that first. To go along with this thing, what Petraeus said, they're not kidding. The new television sets, okay, they have microphones and cameras in them. They admit this, just like your computer does. And they talked about the danger of a criminal hacker on the outside coming in and looking through your television set and your microphone and gathering personal information, your bank accounts or whatever, or maybe in your bedroom. This was on AOL. This was mainstream media are finally admitting this. So they have this picture of a bedroom, and they say you could be in here making love to your spouse, and in a week that could show up on the internet because somebody's stolen it and put it and pirated it after taking pictures of you and then put it on the internet. Now, if a hacker can do that, don't you think the government can? More importantly, I'll tell you, the government will, okay? Because they're criminals. And you see, I'm getting emotional here too because this is so important. So Petraeus said it, and now this thing on AOL came out and talked about it. Of course, they didn't talk about the government doing it, but come on, wake up. All right. So there are some real dangerous things going on right now, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. You think it's bad right now? Or maybe you don't know. Maybe you're so asleep you don't care. But it's coming down the pike, and it's coming real, real fast. Jeffrey Dorner, LAPD, cop, got fired in 2008. All right. All of a sudden, he decides to start shooting people. Who does he start off with? An LAPD captain or lieutenant's daughter and her boyfriend. One of the worst things you can do is harm the family of somebody that's wronged you, because the family didn't do it. So right off the bat, there's something wrong here. And then he goes and he shoots another couple of cops, and he threatens to take down the whole LAPD. Well, if you didn't watch this very closely, I'll just tell you right now, real quick, I imagine you all did. Did you notice that almost every picture of him was in his military uniform? Lieutenant bars, in the Navy, the captain's bars in the Army, lieutenant's bars in the Navy. Did you notice that? And they put out about his asymmetrical warfare he's going to wage. All right. DHS said that veterans would be terrorists. I'm not saying the Dorner thing was a false flag. He apparently had a real gripe with somebody. He had also been under psychological counseling at some point. But be that as it may, the entire LAPD went nuts. We talk about public safety. It used to be called peace officers. Now they're called law enforcement officers. No, they're jackboot thugs. They go around shooting people that don't even match his description. I can understand why people don't like the LAPD, and a lot of police departments in the country are like this now. I'm not saying all cops are bad, but we're sure seeing a trend that these guys aren't interested in the public safety. Another example, okay, they've got Dorner up there in the mountains. Supposedly, I'm not even sure any of this is true. I'm not even sure Dorner shot those people, because we've never gotten the information, but now we never will. How do we know that Dorner didn't have something else on them and they framed him? We don't know that because they wouldn't let it go to trial. They were out to execute him right off the bat. Shot up those two ladies in the truck. They had, I think it was 110 rounds. 110 rounds? Well, that tells me two things. First of all, they were out to kill those people. I didn't care who they were, on not even a suspicion. If that's how the officers are trained, that's a suspicion, oh my God. Oh, they're nervous. Oh, yeah? Well, I was nervous when I was a cop. I was nervous when I was a soldier. I didn't start shooting a bunch of innocent people. Target acquisition and identification. Obviously, they don't know anything about that. Well, that was the first problem. And the second is that now that Dorner's gone, we can't really find out what happened. And so we can't even find out what happened there. The other thing is that, they had this roadblock in the, as you notice, I had to calm down a little bit. I apologize. They had this massive roadblock through Big Bear. Did you see what those officers were doing? They were acting more like soldiers intimidating an enemy country. They had their guns drawn. They would come up on a car filled with a family, mother, father, children, have their guns pointed at that car while they opened the passenger door and the back and looked in. Now, what if Dorner had been in there? All right? They'd open fire and kill the whole family too? I know better than that. Oh, I'm getting upset again. I just can't believe the tactics that we allow these supposed public servants to get away with. We see it on the news. I don't blame people for getting upset at the police anymore. There's so much on the internet now about police brutality. I'm afraid a lot of it is true. We saw it in the Dorner case, for instance. There's one on there I saw just a little while ago where a lady was pulled over for a cell phone violation. In California, you can't talk on your cell phone. Well, she may have been mouthing off in the car, the officer. I don't know, but you don't slam dunk a woman in handcuffs down on the ground and body slam her. They almost killed her. And then they shot some kid that was running away and they said, oh, he had a gun. No, he didn't. These are criminals. And they wear badges and guns anymore. And military uniforms. So the donor thing got way out of control. And I'm not sure what really happened there. You know, veterans are some of the best people that we've got. And that's where I'm going next with this. As I was mentioning earlier, DHS called a lot of people domestic extremists because of their political views. They want to get the republic back. They want a Republican constitutional form of government, like all these politicians and all these government people are supposed to swear an oath to and then violate it the first chance they get. And nobody holds them accountable. Congress doesn't hold the president accountable. You know, I had a friend the other day that said, oh, you know, take this to the congressman. Do you realize that the Congress voted for the NDAA? The Congress voted for the Patriot Act. The Congress voted for Obamacare. That stuff isn't good. I mean, they're nice and little things in it that seem good, but by and large, most of it is not, if you know anything about it. So, taking it to Congress anymore doesn't do any good. What am I saying? Do we need to go out and, start causing trouble? No, but that's not the answer. I think the answer, some people have a really good idea about this. I know I'm diverging a little bit, but, state governments need to take back their authority. They need to say, this is the line in the sand, you don't go any further. Unfortunately, I know a lot of state governments are complicit in all this as well, but, that's at the level that we can really do some things there and in the counties. A lot of county sheriffs, I think it's about 400 now across the nation, have stood up and said they will not assist the federal government in doing any kind of a firearms confiscation. And some of them even said that if the feds try it, they'll arrest them. Boy, that's going to be crazy. You talk about a civil war. All right. So getting back on this thing with vets, I said that veterans were classified by the DHS and all these government agencies as the number 1 domestic terrorist threat in the United States. Well, why is that? Well, I've pointed that out to you because, they took an oath, and if they take it seriously, the government agencies know that those people know what they're doing. They can offer up a really bad resistance to the government if they decide that that's necessary. So they're labeled as terrorists, yet they are our resource. They are the backbone of the republic. So, what happened here just this last week? If you haven't heard, most of you probably have by now, the Veterans Administration sent out letters telling veterans, and there were some nebulous, qualifiers in there, but the bottom line is they're going to take your right away. They say that if you get judged as being incompetent, and what is that? It doesn't really explain. It says some guy's going to make that decision at the VA. It could be as minuscule as the fact that you got upset out in combat once and lost it and broke down. It could be as innocuous as that, or a major problem with PTSD. But I had a commentator say something I thought was pretty good. He says, okay, well, a woman gets robbed, and now that she's upset, that's the bad thing. We're going to take away her right to protect herself because she's had a bad experience. They use every excuse in the book. Our government is supposed to give us due process in a court of law, in a trial with our peers, not in some secret little chamber, somebody making a decision somewhere. I don't care what Obama did. And the Congress, this is what I'm saying, Congress is complicit. He's going to let him get by with those 23 executive orders? No. They ought to come back and hold a trial against him for trying to violate his oath of office. So anyway, let me show you this thing on the veterans. It's a letter that was sent out. Okay, here is a copy of that letter from the Veterans Administration. Of course, the information on the individual has been taken out to protect them. And this is one of the statements that it says right here, and this is the important part. I don't know if you can see this, but it says, a determination of incompetency will prohibit you from purchasing, possessing, receiving, or transporting a firearm or ammunition. If you knowingly violate any of these prohibitions, you may be fined, imprisoned, or both pursuant to the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. And it goes on to explain what that is, kind of, although it's a misrepresentation of what that's really about. So there you go. Who makes these decisions? The VA, of course, without any judicial proceeding. Okay. I think there were some other things I wanted to say about that, but I want to go back to something else right now. The fact that government agencies are preparing for a war against the American people. Now, I will go along with the fact that if the economy fell on a normal situation, and you had rioters in the streets, that for the protection of the population, you need to do something to stop that dangerous situation. But I happen to know that they're trying to implode the economy on purpose. And I'm not going to explain why here. Okay, I'm not going to do that. If you don't know, nothing I can say in this short period of time is going to make you understand that. That's just one spike in this attack on us right now. The others, of course, being things like the violating the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all these other things. Giving bankers billions of dollars and trillions of dollars while they take away our homes. And in Iceland, of course, the Iceland government said, no, you're not doing that. And they kicked the bankers out. They're the only people that have done that. We should do that. But of course we won't, because we're in bed with them. But at any rate, it's an us and them attitude between the government and the people right now. And this isn't just, by race or by social economic class or those things. This is a government versus the people. It's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be a government of, by, and for the people. Well, it's not anymore. Now, DHS put it in order for targets. And if you haven't seen this on the news, I want to show you this right now. Look at this. Okay, I want to show you some of these no more hesitation targets. This is the first one in the list here. Pregnant woman threat. Okay, and we're going to go down. Here's a older man with shotgun threat. And look at this one. Little boy with real gun. Yeah. And here's one with a teenage girl and her little siblings, probably just out to try to protect themselves on the playground or whatever. But the point is, look at what we're saying are the new targets. Here's an older woman with a gun, maybe trying to defend her home from people who she doesn't know who they are. Young school-aged girl. Well, I could go on and on here, but this is really serious. Do you notice something a little odd about all these pictures? They're all white people. They fit in with the DHS estimate that all of the new terrorists are white people. This is definitely racial profiling of a different sort. So now, what do we have? Targets of pregnant women, children, teenage girls, old men. No hesitation targets. Now look, I was a military officer and a police officer back and forth for about 28 years. You know what? And I know that there are non-traditional situations that you have to act accordingly. But I will tell you here right now, those targets are not for that. They are for desensitization. Did I say that right? Desensitizing, I guess it's the same thing, these people so that they will kill wantonly. If they can shoot somebody and say he had a gun when he didn't. I mean, this, and I'm not the only one that's complained about that. This is a professional. There have been a lot of police officers, a lot of military people that have seen these and said this was the most disgusting, despicable thing they've ever seen. And the federal government and local law enforcement agencies actually asked for those targets, and that's why they don't make them. The target companies just don't make them because it's a new target. No, that was requested by the governments. So women and children now, gun down first, ask questions later. You know what? LAPD did that, didn't they? Didn't they? Shot up that truck. Shoot first, ask questions later. 110 rounds from semi-automatic rifles into a pickup truck. Almost killed the one lady, severely hurt the other. And then they do the same thing to another guy. Shoot first, ask questions later. No hesitation. They're not public servants. They're not for public safety. They're gun-happy thugs. I never did that when I was a cop or a military officer. Ever. As a matter of fact, the people I worked with would tell you I acted quite differently than that. People I could have shot, I didn't. So I'm very upset because, like Alex Jones, I guess you got to wake people up because they just don't believe this. So here we have these non-hesitation targets. This is to harden the guys that shoot at those so they won't think about it when they do it. Okay? This is wrong. It's just like those killer games where you gun down, hundreds of people and you get, your score gets better the more people you kill. These are very, very bad. And they say that the civilians, they get weapons. They call them self-defense weapons. We get them and they say, oh no, that's an assault weapon. It's all a game of semantics. Now I know I'm getting off here. All right. I made a statement. I'm going to stop here. I made a statement a while back. Well, it was in the last video. About what in the olden times, when you were in battle, one of the things that and I'm not happy about this at all, but it's historical. The enemy forces would go in and kill all the women in a village because they're the baby factories. This is for real, folks. And the reason why I'm concerned, people say, oh, if a woman wants to go in the military, that's her right. My point was they use that as a reason to then grab your daughters that don't want to do that and shouldn't have to. That's the problem. Going a little further, we talked about all of the chemicals and things that are in the water. Have you ever wondered, why is it that the United States has the highest cancer rate in the world? Why is it that breast and ovarian cancer are skyrocketing? Everyone knows somebody has. It's not just the number of people. It's the fact that the percentage per number of people has gone up 5,000%. This is not an accident either. They always talk about the cure, never about the cause. Now, there's some, in our world, there are going to be risks, with manufacturing and things like that. But what if you found out that they deliberately put things in the water and the food and the air to cause breast cancer and ovarian cancer or bone cancer? We are being warred against, and one of the things that the opposing forces will do, they are the old royalty, the old nobility, okay? They will starve you out, siege warfare, all right? They will kill your women and your children, but your women is key. And you don't even know they're doing it today because they're doing it with soft kill stuff. This is for real. This is not a joke. And I know I'm sounding like a lunatic at this point. I had one guy write in and said that, I'm a redneck moron. No. He doesn't know his world. So, I'll just leave it at that, at what I've said here. We're in a lot of trouble. And how do you protect your families against this invisible enemy, this one that comes in your food and your water? Well, get a water purification system and drink that. It's best if you can shower and cook in it too, but to stay away from. Be careful of the foods you eat. Even organics. What did they find out this week? Over in China, supposed organic food, it's not. It's even artificial. So merely getting organic food isn't the best. If you grow a garden out here, you've got problems with the type of water that you're using to irrigate. Of course, in the air, the chemtrails that are going over, spraying aluminum dioxide all over us and barium salts. Not salts, sorry. Barium isotopes. So look, no, you can't protect yourself against everything. When Fukushima happened back a couple of years ago, I got concerned. The MOX 4 reactor explosion was something very, very serious. And that radioactive plume cloud did eventually make it, and the worst part, I guess, fell right over Bakersfield, California. But I called up some people, friends, family, loved ones, said, hey, look, you need to get some plastic up on your windows. You need to keep the air out of your house. And I guess they thought I was telling them they had to live like that for the rest of their lives. And that was only because I didn't fully explain myself, I guess, at the time. But the fact of the matter is that Mach 4 plume, as it moved across, I didn't know when it was going to land. The jet streams, I knew it was probably going to be in Southern California somewhere, but I didn't know exactly where. Of course, a lot of it then headed over into Wisconsin and contaminated dairy farms and stuff like that. But that Mach 4 plume cloud went right over Bakersfield. So I wanted that thing I knew that thing would travel across. I wanted people to be ready. You can't get ready in 30 minutes. It takes time. That's why I say, start. Here's a good example. A guy who sells food supply says it's better to be prepared 1 month too early, 1 day too early than 6 months too late. And that was the same thing with this. Better to have, let that plume cloud go by, and you'll have to keep the air out of your house and the dust for a little while, and then afterwards, you take all that down. You don't live in a plastic bubble. But people want to judge instead of listen. I'm getting frustrated here now too, I know. There's always a lot that I want to talk about, and I probably go too much in these things, only because there's just so much happening. Look, I said in one of the last videos that I think we have a lot to look forward to, that there is an intelligence controlling all this. But you have to decide what side you're on. Closing your eyes, saying it doesn't exist, is just as bad as doing it, because you are going to suffer the consequences. Personally, spiritually. That's why I say don't find fault with people like me that are trying to point these things out to you. All right? We do it out of our experience. We do it out of our study. And we're not compartmentalized. I had a very good friend. He said, you're a human being. You have to be able to, do a lot of things. Specialization, another word for compartmentalization, is for insects. Specialization is for insects. So open your eyes and ears. Listen. Think. Don't take the word of the media on anything. Don't take the word of the government on anything. You may not be able to figure it out because a lot of these things are hidden so well. They're coming out more and more all the time, which reminds me. These people that are doing this do believe in I'm going to call it a spiritual side. They actually believe the spiritual side. You may not. You may be an agnostic or an atheist or think God's coming tomorrow and going to take you up in the rapture, whatever. These guys practice their spirituality, and it's a wicked spirituality. It's about death and destruction and control. They practice it every single day, and they believe it. I'm going to bring something up here because I'm hoping that she's going to listen to this. There was a lady once who told me that she was very upset that she was having a problem with God. And I had an idea of what might be going on, but because this person wouldn't really talk to me, didn't trust me, I said, well, what's the problem? And she pointed a picture of Jesus and she said, he's a fool. He believes in this God who allows little children to be killed and hurt and all of this. All right, I don't know what she saw or what she was referring to. But I'm going to tell you again what I told you some time ago about the guys that go to the Bohemian Grove, the elitists, the world leaders, the politicians, the corporate heads, the Queen of the Netherlands, whoever, all these, Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth, all these people, or their representatives. These grown adults, Queen Elizabeth doesn't go. It's only for men, by the way. Women have been trying to get in on this thing, and they're crazy for wanting to do it. But again, women, about their rights. They want to get in there so they get the power. Not do things because they're right, but the power. Oh, they're going to change it? No, 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 no. You don't get in there and change anything. So what do these guys do? They have a ceremony in front of the god Molech, which is a symbol of an owl, and they bring a small infant doll in, male doll, and they cremate it. Grown people doing this. Oh, this is just a gentleman's club. This is just for fun. This is just so they don't worry about things. That's the key, so they don't worry about things. The cremation of care is what it's called. The killing of your conscience. The little thing in the back of your head that says, don't do this, this isn't right. They do this ceremony so that they can overcome that guilty conscience and do whatever it is that needs to be done. It's very Machiavellian. The ends justifies the means, and of course that's not true. Only for people that want power and control over others does that work. And eventually it's not even going to work for them. They'll get their own, but don't give in to it. So I don't know what this lady saw, but you guys, these things are in the world, and don't misjudge God for the acts of men. Those manifestations of God on this level, these, you get good and bad. I don't know that I understand that. I guess that's why we're told not to judge others, because we don't really know how they've been programmed. But choosing the right is always the best thing to do, even if you're programmed to do wrong. So don't hold God accountable for something that men do. Let's rise above this. Let's recognize that we have a part to play, and that our part is in choosing the right, even when the outcome might be inconvenient for us. All right? Remember the little situation I was telling you about cosmic rays, and that they follow a lattice work, showing that there's a divine, or I should say an intelligent designer. I like to call it a divine presence, but however you want to view that, it is in control in the end. So whether you look at this as a testing ground for your particular spirit, or whether you think it's, just a potpourri of experience, either way, it's always best to choose the right. We want to continue in eternity as individual beings, not go into the nirvana, not back into the soup where you have no individuality, no individual conscience. That is not paradise. Okay? That's not, I don't want to go there. I don't think anybody does. But you do have to prove yourself to some extent, and standing up for the right. You're not always going to do the right thing. You're not always going to do it the best you can. What's in your heart? So keep your hearts good, okay? And please don't judge me for looking at these things and being concerned about them and taking the precautions that I do and will continue to take, because I want to have a say in the outcome of this whole matter if I can. All right? God bless you.